Hey everyone, it's Terrence Branley, and welcome back to the Grow IT podcast. And today, I'm really excited to talk about the intertwining of the blockchain and food, and how it gets from the farms to our homes. And Audra Jansen is the director of sales North America for Farm to Plate, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, Terrence. Thank you for having me.
So, tell me a little bit about your background prior to and up until Farm to Plate.
Yeah, so really, I started, you know, my career in the 90s. So I've seen a lot of changes occur and really got into technology kind of at the cusp of things in the early 2000s and kind of grew into, into our network the way we have it now. I mean, constant learning. I was in cybersecurity for quite some time, testing and inspection for imports, and has kind of evolved now to where I'm marrying those two skill sets, and we are tracking and monitoring food and making sure that all of that tech is tight, and we are able to protect the best interests of our manufacturers and distributors while allowing them to meet the needs that they have today. So yeah, it's been great.
So let's talk, about some of the problems associated that you guys are trying to solve for clients in there. What are their, and I caution using the problems, right? Problems,
Yeah, well,
challenges, or maybe just a desired outcome is what they're trying to do or how your offering can help them.
it is all of the above, honestly. But as we know, often you have to be pushed to make big changes. And so the FDA has a new regulation that is being put into place in January of 2026. And that's called FSMA Rule 204D. And with that regulation, anyone that touches food in the supply chain from harvest to consumption in certain product categories needs to keep a record. So this is going to enable quicker recalls. It's going to enable a safer food supply chain. So let's say, I think we've all kind of heard about romaine lettuce recalls. I'm just using an example. I think we've all had them in our regions. And with that, what did they do? They pull all of that off the shelf. And maybe only a portion of it is really affected. But they need to know where that occurred. Right? Did it occur at a farm level? Did it occur during distribution? Did it occur at the retail store or the restaurant? So those are things that we will be able to do with advanced traceability. So if we can trace and track what's happening to the food along the journey, then we're better able to pull only those resources. So sustainability, it's going to help with reducing waste. And, of course, we all want to make sure we're doing our best for the environment and the earth. And if we can reduce waste, that's just one piece. But also a safer food supply chain is the ultimate goal. But this is a huge initiative for the food industry right now. Companies are not quite sure how to tackle it. And, the FDA is renowned for saying, here's what we need you to do. Now go figure it out, right? So everyone's trying to maneuver this on their own and in the most affordable way possible, but also meeting the needs of what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I want to delve into the blockchain side of things, right?
Yeah.
Because when people hear blockchain, they automatically think cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, right? But and my take on the blockchain is it's kind of like an online ledger that's decentralized that allows for full trackability and traceability of anything that is transparent to everybody, and that can't be changed, edited, deleted, etc. Is that a good encapsulation of it?
That's a good summary, Terrence. It is. But I think the big takeaways is to keep in mind it's immutable. So you can't go back in later and change it. You can't go, oops, we screwed up here. We're going to go change it and doctor records. So that's one piece. But the other piece is with blockchain, you can show whatever cards you need to without showing all of it. Right? So that's a concern, especially with private label brands. They don't necessarily want the customer to know like who made it, right? Because sometimes it is it's being created on a smaller level and probably a higher quality level than some other name brands are out there. Might be a store brand, Yeah, I can think of many. Aldi has their own, Jewel Foods has their own. They all have their own, but it's being made somewhere else. So if you don't want to show those cards, you can keep that confidential while revealing the necessary components. So each step of the way, there's certain things they have to capture and show that they're either doing to the food or where it came from, passing that along the chain. So I like to liken it to like a baton, like in a relay race, right? So you have some data, and in order to go to the next stage, you need to pass that baton. So it's like a data baton that they're passing down the line until it eventually gets to the consumer. So that's part of, with that immutable technology, you're able to pass those pieces of the baton that you have to share with keeping other pieces confidential. That might be part of your secret sauce. So that's what's the beauty of it.
So let's talk about some use cases. You had mentioned the regulation that's coming down, and I would assume it's involved with, or it affects everyone that's involved in the food chain from the farmer all the way up. But again, I want to get your take on that. But let's just talk about some different use cases for all the components involved in the food chain, right? From the farm to the distributor to the retail store to the restaurants, et cetera. So maybe if you kind of walk us through some different use cases, and why this is.
I'll walk you through one that's a big piece of the regulation, and that is related to seafood. So with the and not all products are affected by this regulation. There's a handful, main ones being seafood, cheese, certain produce, nut butter, shell eggs, ready to eat deli salads. Those are pieces that are affected. Other things like poultry, meat, that's really monitored by the USDA and not the FDA. So that is yet to come into play. We project that it will eventually, everything will be traceable. But at this juncture, it isn't. So let's go back to like seafood. So with seafood, that's fresh or frozen, imported or domestic. So as you can imagine, we're sourcing seafood, especially from all over the world. And in the beginning of the food chain, typically there's less technology. They're less technical. They're less up to date on things. They're focused on the quality of the ingredients and, growing it or harvesting it. That's more of their forte. So to throw technology in front of them, they're like, we don't even have the internet, on boats, they're not going to have an internet connection. So you need to help them where they're at. So for example, there's an AI enabled app that we've created that marries into our platform, where they can literally take a photo of that fish and it captures the required data points that the FDA is needing. So geolocation, when, where, all those things, and then they can start that lot number. So if it ever needed to be traced, we know exactly where it was originated. So that's something that, we're putting into the platform that is kind of new. Like, we want everyone to participate in this without losing those small to mid-size businesses that are food contributors, because they're such a huge part of at least North American, the food supply chain. It's not just your big companies like Tyson and others. Like, it is really those small to mid-size that are struggling to stay in business. They're struggling to get help, and they're struggling in many ways as far as profitability. They are not gouging like you see on the news. Like, so many of them are really just trying to stay afloat. So in order to enable them to be able to meet these needs, we need to give them some tools. So that's one thing we did for a company that was a fish supplier. And we put this AI enabled smartphone app that they just need to take a photo. Everyone can pretty much take a photo, whether they know how to read or not. And that was the case for many. They weren't educated, and they didn't have, those tools behind them. So taking a photo to start the chain was really helpful. And then it helped everybody down the line to be able to capture and have that data so they can be in compliance and still source from this fairly small company that, didn't know how to approach it. So that was something that we did with them. We're talking with all different types of manufacturers and distributors right now that carry these types of products, and trying to help them integrate this technology into what they've got going on. So, Terrence, I want to just elaborate on that. Companies are investing in software
Mm-hmm.
platforms, warehouse management systems, all those things that they need to run their business. And now we're throwing another layer at them. We need to integrate into what they got going on because they may not be able to afford to overhaul everything. So if we can plug into what they've got already and put it kind of up into the cloud, in a platform that can relay this information without interrupting them too badly, that's our goal.
Okay. How do you? Here's one of the challenges I see when you touched on it earlier, right? That seafood is sourced, you know, outside of the U.S. waters. How do the distributors drive compliancy to the fisherman that's in the Arabian Sea, right, or
Right.
elsewhere? How does that work?
Yeah, it's really very challenging because the distributors are the farthest removed from the supplier typically, right? It goes through many steps before it hits them. So everyone has to lean on the company prior to when they get it. So there's a lot of leaning going on, right? Distributors are leaning on the manufacturer. Uh, Restaurant chains are leaning on the distributors. And we're finding that that seems to be it seems to be that that's where the onus is going to lie. Like they're going to be storing the documentation for 24 months. These restaurant chains are not equipped to do it. A lot of them are franchised. They don't have the infrastructure. So distributors are taking this on, but they need the data that they had to collect prior to receiving the product. So a lot of pressure down the supply chain, and yeah, it just needs to happen. And like I said, I fear that if they're not complying in the front end of the supply chain, they're just not going to do business with them because they don't want to risk their own reputation to not have that handed off to them in the data baton, so to speak.
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably going to end up in the distributors, corner.
It does, and unfortunately, it's taken some time. This law was finalized a while ago, a year and a half ago, and yet it's companies drag their feet until they're absolutely forced. So right now it's go time. If it was a marathon, we're starting to run. Okay, so by 2026, if they have to make all these digital connections with all these suppliers, you can imagine the spider web of connections that they're going to have to make. There's hundreds, if not thousands sometimes. So to get all of that data in one place is a big
Yeah,
challenge.
I can imagine. And they have until 2026. But like I said, that's especially in terms of IT and tech terms, in terms of
It's not far.
infrastructure, that's not very far, right?
It is not.
Well, let's talk. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about growth, right? Like, and you guys are a relatively new company, a few years, right? Like, what are the challenges that you guys face in growing your firm?
Yeah, in growing, I really think it's been related to getting, not only are we a fairly young, unknown brand, right? This is a new idea. It's a new company, but also a new concept. So we have to kind of talk to customers about the concept first, have them understand that this is something they need to really consider and take a closer look at, and then why us, right? So the growth part has been really getting out to conferences, getting out to speaking engagements. We're holding our own webinars and having meetings with stakeholders that are deciding these types of things. But getting our brand out there has been a challenge because we're an unknown brand, but we come from a parent company with a 25-year history. Paramount Software Solutions is our parent company. So we have like great minds working constantly behind the scenes to help boost us up. And we're really getting out into the market with the farm to plate brand. But we've got Paramount behind us. So that's huge for us.
From an experience standpoint, from a capital investment standpoint, right? And especially when you're have a new market, right? And essentially, it's more than that. It's a new market. It's a new industry, right? Because really, this is probably being driven from the compliance standpoint of new regulations. So you have a lot there, and so it's good to have kind of the 800-pound gorilla of experience and capital behind you in order to go to the new market.
It does really help for sure. And, we're actually meeting with competitors and finding out how can we work together, because I think we all realize that not one company is going to be a solution for an entire supply chain. We are going to have to work together and collaborate on how we can connect, make these digital connections between ourselves and not just with our customers. So I believe like there's a lot of cooperation in the market, and everyone's kind of shuffling for position, right? We're trying to find, there are some folks that are focusing on certain product categories specifically, and there's some that are more broad line like ourselves. So, that has yet to shake down really.
Where are the folks that are in the logistics line, right? Whether they're the farmers or restaurants. And I think you talked about it a little bit, right? In terms of the distributors are coming into play. Where are they getting their information from? Where are they looking to understand what's going on with
Mm.
this, right? Because they're, the farmer's doing what the farmer does, the restaurant does what the restaurant does, the retail store, right? But like, where are they in this, and in terms of the learning curve side of things, understanding, to your point, which specific foods may be included in this, and then eventually it'll probably be a longer term thing. Maybe that's part of the education process you have with those. But um,
Trades that are associated with their products. So we're a member partner of International Fresh Produce Association, otherwise known as IFPA. Produce growers are part of that. We're doing our best to educate them on this regulation, and they're turning to IFPA for information. Like, what do we do? Where do we go? Who are some vendors that you know? So that's one piece. And each position in the supply chain has their own. IFMA, International Food Manufacturers Association, we're a member of that as well, and that's more the middle of the supply chain, right? Then there's IFDA. All these IFDA is the Distributor Association. So those are all really important parts. With National Fisheries Institute, that's related to fish. So we've been going to all of these types of events to try to spread the word and talk with folks and let them know, hey, we're here to help you. Whether or not you choose to use our technology, that's another thing, but we'll guide you through this. And I think that's what's helping us too, to build some bridges, because we truly just want to help guide them. Whether or not they ultimately end up purchasing from us, has yet to be seen in some cases, but we know we're getting, our reputation out there as helpers, and we want to guide them and make sure they're making good decisions. And the FDA is a tremendous resource, but as you know, you're digging through. This regulation is over 100 pages long. It's hard to know what you really need to pay attention to, what's kind of like, nice to know, right?
versus
So we're
need to
helping
know,
them maneuver that. Yeah, or need to know, or
must know.
just kind of okay.
What's going to get me in hot water? I need to know.
Yes, yes, and we're working with compliance and legal folks at the different entities too, because they're worried that they don't want to get fined out of existence if they're not in compliance, and that is a reality that can happen. So we're trying to just really, without scaring them, let them know this is serious and it's not optional. There are many optional things that the FDA will advise, but this is one of them that is not.
Let me ask you this: what in IT and tech today, obviously most are talking about the trend of AI and artificial intelligence and LLMs, large learning models. How does that come into play, or does it right now, or is there just too many other things in terms of the education of the regulation and the changes in the
Yeah.
industry in terms of that, that it's almost like we can't even get to the AI part yet? But
They're just really not. They're so, like, that is such a big animal to tackle that they're just kind of backing out. And when we say AI, people get scared. They go, "Oh gosh, the AI, that's scary." And so that's something that we're trying to inform them. Like AI, there's such a huge like space between like really intense AI and just kind of basic AI. And with that app that we built for recognizing a fish, what type of fish, is it fresh? That's kind of basic AI that can help them now. But as far as like robotics and things, only your biggest companies are really taking that plunge and moving forward with that. The others are like, we'll wait till everyone else does it. We'll do it when we have to. But I do believe that the shortage of, quality employees or people that are even showing up to do their jobs is a concern. And that's across the nation. That's not in any one pocket. So, robotics is being seriously considered. And especially with, the pandemic, we saw how things changed, and it really will continue to change. And there's people are thinking out of the box more than they used to.
It's incredible. Can you walk us through the path that a new client would take with farm to plate? And I know there's probably different paths because there's probably different people involved. But can you walk us through the path that a new client would take in working with you guys?
Yeah, so typically, we'll have a meeting. We'll at least determine that they have a food product that's relevant to the new regulation, and we'll ask them a bit about their business. What are they doing for it now? How much are they on paper? You'd be surprised at how many companies are still just using Excels. They're still just passing paper back and forth, and they're not digitized at all. So we need to find out kind of where they're at, what their vision is, and what we need to do. Do they just want to do the basics to meet this regulation, or are they also wanting to incorporate things like sustainability initiatives? It's huge, and we have something built into our system that can help them track CO2 emissions, buying credits, all that good stuff. And so we take their direction as to how far they want to delve into these other components, because they could really do a lot with this data share that's being required of them, and expand upon that to make themselves more efficient. So we really take an approach where we're consulting with them maybe even 2 to 3 times for an hour each on a video call, learning more about what they are looking for, what their vision is, and try to map it to what they're looking to do. Because it's like, I liken it to a cell phone, right? You have so many options on that device. You may only use 10 or 15% of what's capable of. So that's the same with our platform. We need to find out. We don't want to confuse people, because it can be if we're showing them all the capabilities. Let's tackle one thing at a time. So we try to talk them through that, and then typically, if it makes a lot of sense for them, we can do some integrations, and we have a proof of concept with no obligation. We want them to see where they can use this, that it's easy, that their people are not pushing back too hard, and that try to marry that between must do and, hey, this we don't have to do yet, right? So we're trying to guide them through that, and then if they see, oh, this is making perfect sense, let's do it. A lot of companies want to have this rocking and rolling 6 months before the regulation actually begins in January of 2026. So running out of time.
Yeah, I know, and
But
that's what I was just thinking. I mean, it's coming quick, and it's and I guess I would wrap that in terms of if if there's a business owner or someone in that food chain, so to speak, that is watching this and wondering if you can at least maybe answer their questions, educate them on some of the regulation.
mhm.
What's a good way for them to get hold of you, learn more about farm to plate, follow you?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. They can go to our website, farmtoplate.io. We're also on LinkedIn. And of course, we got our page there. We're doing a lot of social media feeds. We're on X as well. Farm to Plate, a division of Paramount Software. And yeah, so we're happy to answer questions. You can reach out to myself, Audra Jansen, and that's audra.jansen at farmtoplate.io. Be happy to answer questions. I want to mention too, we have the privilege of having a 40-year-old food industry veteran as our strategic advisor. And he has been tremendous and really guiding everyone, even in the back end, the product team, to make sure that they're understanding how North America works. because it is different globally. It's different everywhere. So understanding the ins and outs of that and being able to really speak to what some of their challenges may be, we're able to consult with him. He's a full-time employee as well. We're attached at the hip, so to speak. So we'd be happy to answer any questions at no charge and just help you through this.
That's an amazing resource to leverage
Yeah,
and tap. And like you said, it's a good one for asking questions, especially in a time like this. I know what it's like. Anytime that there's new regulation, a new industry, new things that are impacting the industry, there are more questions than answers a lot of times. So
absolutely. Yeah.
good deal. Well, listen, I appreciate your time today, and good luck with everything. We'll look forward to catching up in a few years and seeing how much of this has progressed.
Yes, absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you.